Please be advised that I am not a gun expert, lawyer, or professional trainer. The content and topics discussed here are based on my own personal experiences. Please take them for what they're worth, but also do your own research so that you can make the best decisions for yourself accordingly. What's up, everybody, and welcome to The Journey. Sorry for the delay, but I didn't forget about you. Part 2 of Buying Your Gun, coming right up. Welcome back, everyone. So you've made your decisions now. You've gone over the 4 questions for yourself. You decided that you want to go with a pistol. You decide the purpose for this pistol, how you want to use this pistol, and even have a budget in mind. Now you're trying to figure out which pistol is going to serve this purpose and stay within your budget. So today I want to focus on the budget aspects and what you can get for your budget. Typically for a first-time buyer, your range is going to be anywhere from $350 to $600 on average. Sometimes you may go a little bit higher, sometimes a little bit lower. But most importantly, you need to do your due diligence and figure out what is going to be perfect for your particular purpose and will meet all the criteria that you're looking for. Don't let the price deceive you. A $600 pistol does not automatically make it better than a $350 pistol. If your purpose and your budget determines that you're within a finite range, don't automatically make any assumptions based on the price, because it's very possible that you can find a gun on the lower spectrum of the price tag that will fit your purposes. It's the same exact way as when it's on a $600 range. It really comes down to what you want this pistol to do and how you're going to be using it. Now, also please keep in mind that based on what particular range and what pistol you go with, there's going to be some limitations in that regard as well. Your $350, $400 range is typically going to be more on the economically based spectrum. So those kind of budget-minded pistols may lack some of the features that you'll have that come standard on the pistols that are on the higher tier. Some of the pistols on the higher tier may have much more than you need. So you're spending more money on something that you're not going to fully utilize. So these are things to keep in mind. So starting off, I'll go with the pistols in the budget-minded aspect. Typically for those, you'll find those are like the Taurus pistols, Canik, SAR, and there's a number of other companies that will be in that kind of price range. Maybe some of your entry-level Springfield, Smith & Wessons, or Glocks. You'll also may find those, and sometimes even your used pistols. And don't let a used pistol steer you away from something, because sometimes those used pistols are in very good condition and you get them for a very good price. But for now, we'll focus primarily on brand new out the box. So when you're looking at a budget-minded pistol, the budget-minded is in terms of the quality control, and those can be hit or miss, and that's something you need to keep in mind. So because the quality control is not going to be as high as the quality control you'll see from a more reputable company like a Smith & Wesson or a Glock, there is a very good possibility that you can end up with a pistol that is going to malfunction on you at a higher frequency than something that has a higher level of quality control. So this is something that you need to keep in mind, because you never know when the situation approaches where you may need your firearm, and if it malfunctions on you, now you're in a precarious position. Nobody wants that. So this is something that you need to determine for yourself if you saving money is worthwhile for you, because like I said, you might end up with a great pistol that never malfunctions and does the job phenomenally for you, but you have a higher likelihood to have a pistol that when the opportunity presents itself for you to have to use this pistol, it may malfunction. So it's up to you. On the other side, you go with a higher end pistol. Yeah, you have a good quality control. Yeah, you have all these extra features. Are you going to use them? Are you going to use them? It's like you buying a Lamborghini, but you're only going to drive 25 miles per hour. Do you need all these extra features? You need to determine this for yourself. For your budget-minded pistols, we'll stay on the budget-minded for now. The budget-minded pistols may also be missing certain features that you may want to use. Maybe not out the box, but down the road. Maybe you want to put a red dot on there. Maybe you want to add a mounted light on there. Or maybe this is something that you want to carry and you need particular type of holster. With budget-minded pistols, you have, in a sense, you have a more refined, or I should say, limited access as far as that's concerned. For holsters, if it's a budget pistol, there may not be a market on there for holsters like you would for a Glock, like you would for a Smith and Wesson, because it's budget minded. So that means it's not a major corporation, and a lot of these holster companies are not going to give you as many options for holsters in that regard. So you're limited. What if you carry this pistol now and you want to have it and you want to carry it for yourself, but the only kind of holster you have that's available to you is not the most comfortable? What if there's no holster at all? How can you carry this? These are things you need to keep in mind when you're going to buy your pistol, because if this is something that's going to stay at home, that's one thing. But if you're going to carry this on your person, how are you going to carry it if you have no holster option? We're not going to go old school and like what you see in the movies and just stuff it in your pants. That's not safe. We're not going to put it in our pockets. That's not safe either. So how are you going to carry it? Keep that in mind. What if the pistol doesn't have the option where you can mount a red dot on there? You're strictly going to use iron sights. Not a bad thing, but you're still limited, because now a feature that could present itself to make, in a sense, it easier for you to be on target and to find your target when you're drawing from your holster, you don't have that option available to you now. That's an option. That's something that you got to worry about. Let's say you want to put a weapon-mounted light on there. That's fine. Typically, most pistols will have the rail on the bottom where you can attach your light. But now we go back to our holsters. Can you find a holster that fits that gun in combination with this light? You're still limited because of the kind of gun you have, but now you've added on a light, which makes it even more limited. Can you find something in that regard? These are things you need to keep in mind. So just because the gun itself is cheaper doesn't mean that your price just stops there. There are other things that you need to keep in mind before you make your purchase. Now we'll go into your mid-tier. Your mid-tier in the price range will probably be in your $450, $500 range. Or $400, we'll say $400 to $500. Once again, you can have some of the pistols like your Canics that will branch over into that realm, and you may also find some Glocks, some Springfields, some Smith and Wessons that are also in this price range now. This is kind of like a sweet spot because you'll have a lot more options for you in this regard as far as holster opportunities, as well as now you're starting to come into that more reputable brand branch where you can start getting guns that are very well known and have higher quality control. However, you may still lack some of the features that you'll find in the guns that are in the $500 to $600 range. And in that regard, I'm referring more to it being optic ready cut. Once again, this is not a bad thing, but if you're looking for a pistol and you whether you're doing it out the box or if you want to go down the road and put a red dot on there, you going for a gun that's not cut for an optic, meaning that it has the it's already set up where you can take a little piece off of the top of the gun via two screws that hold it in place and then mount your optic on there. This is something that you're going to have to keep in mind, because even though you can always send it to a gunsmith to have it milled, meaning that they'll take the slide and they'll cut into the slide so that they can make it where you could put an optic on there. This is a lot of money, and in some cases the cost for you to pay for that gun to be milled so that you can fit an optic on there is almost the same price as what you paid for the gun. Is that worth it to you? That's your determination. So that's something to also keep in mind. Now, once again, this is something that you will have to figure out for yourself. You will have better options for holsters because it's more of a known commodity in regards to the manufacturer and that particular model. So you'll have better opportunities for your holsters. You'll have more options also if you want to combine a light on there. So yeah, you're still going to be limited because you're adding a whole bunch of new features and variables into the equation, but you have more options available to you now because it's a more reputable or known entity, and manufacturers of holsters will have that in mind, so they'll give you more options in that regard. And then now we go into our $500 to $600 range. This is where you'll find more of your Smith & Wessons, your Walthers, your Glocks, even a few HKs, your 6 Hours. This is more the price point for these higher guns. Now, these are your I would say not flagship, but borderline flagship pistols, but the quality control is much, much higher. And these are also the more popular pistols, especially for not just first-time buyers, but also the majority of people who own and are used to having multiple firearms. You'll find, especially guns like your Glock 19, your 6 Hour P320, your Walther PDP, your Smith & Wesson MMP 2.0, your HK VP9. These are the typical, even your Springfield XDMs. These are typically what you'll find in this particular price range, and these are more of the common guns that you'll find. There are other pistols as well, but these are typically what you'll find in this price range, and as such, you'll find that these have the highest amount of options available to you from an aftermarket perspective, for holsters, for accessories. They're more likely to have it pre-ready for an optic, so you don't have to send it out to a gunsmith to be milled for a red dot. It's already ready for you, so all you have to do is take the little plate off that's the covering for the section that you mount an optic on, and you buy your optic of choice, and you go from there. You mount your optic, you're good to go. So you have a lot more options there. And even with your weapon mounted lights, you'll find the options available for you there too, because they're so common. It doesn't even matter as much as far as the size of your light or the shape of your light, because you'll have more options available there, because once again, these are the more popular options. So holster manufacturers notice, and they'll make more options available for that. So at the end of the day, it's up to you to determine what your particular budget is and what's worth it for you. So if you're looking to stay more on the lower spectrum, just know what your limitations are. Not just because of the gun you're buying, but because of the options that you may want to modify down the road. Sometimes going to the higher end, if you don't need a red dot, then fine, go down to a lower level. If you only plan to keep this at home and you don't need a holster, perfectly fine, go down a level, because you don't need all these extra features. You don't need the red dot, you don't need this higher end holster, you're not looking for a weapon mounted light, you just want to keep it simple. That's perfectly fine. But you need to know the pros and cons in either case when you're going to buy your gun, and that way you know how your money is going to be spent. And the most important thing is to try and figure these aspects out before you go and buy it, because sometimes the most common mistake that a lot of people make, and I've made this myself, is to buy a lower end gun and then try to upgrade it to something that is on the higher end, and you end up spending more money in the long run than you would have if you just curtailed yourself, saved a little bit extra if it was a little bit out of your price range initially, taking a little bit of time, saved a little extra, and then bought the gun you initially wanted with all the features that you were looking for out the gate. That way you don't have to worry about trying to modify something that's already in place with something else, because a lot of times when you make these modifications, you kind of degrade the quality of the firearm you're looking to work with itself. And by degrade, I'm referring to its ability to function properly, because now you're adding in all these different aspects and variables that were never part of the initial manufacture of the gun itself. Not to say it won't work, but you have a higher frequency and likelihood of it malfunctioning, because that's not what it was intended for or built with in the first place. So these are all things that you need to keep in mind. And for the most part, hopefully, when you make your final decision that you whatever pistol you're gonna go with, you're not gonna find yourself in a precarious position of finding something and then regretting what you're buying, because now you're realizing that it's not fitting the purpose of what you needed, and you have any kind of buyer's remorse in that regard as a result of this. So from there, we'll branch off into other things, but hopefully this will help you in terms of figuring out what you need for yourself, what's the best option for you, and making a good purchase as a result. If you like what you see, please hit that like, subscribe button, share with your friends. If you have any questions, or if you have any aspects or items that you would like to discuss in future videos, please drop a note in that comments box. Thanks again for joining and watching. Enjoy the journey.